Welcome to the Root of Power podcast, where I teach you how to chase your joy, find alignment, and create a life and a business that you love, using actionable methods, interviews, and inspiring stories from people who know that true freedom is found within. I'm your host, your always hype woman and sometimes ass kicker, Amanda Chills, and I am so proud of you for choosing to step into your power. Come along, we've got dreams to build. Okay, my love, I have put everything that I offer for free on one page so that we are not doing more work than we have to, because why would we do that? Hashtag work smarter, not harder. So livemyhappyhealth.com/free. You are going to find everything I've created for not only leveling up in your personal life and building a life that you love, but leveling up in your business life and building a business that you love. Okay? livemyhappyhealth.com/free. Love you. Hello. We have got Sonya Highfield with us, who is a wealth expansion coach, which I really love that language. So she helps entrepreneurs, and probably not just entrepreneurs, set up their life for abundance and work-life energy and profitability. Oh, we just love that. I cannot wait to get into all of those. So good morning. Thank you for coming on.
Good morning. So good to see you. Nice to be here.
Yes. So tell us how you even got into this field. Like, I love that so many more women are talking about money and wealth, because I think for so long it's been like very taboo for women, and it's been like such a bro field, and it's so nice to see more women being like, no, yeah, you actually can have wealth and don't have to apologize for it.
Yeah. It doesn't have to just be old guys talking about money, right?
Right.
The way that I ended up here is that I was a photographer. That was my full-time
Awesome.
thing. That's all I really ever thought I was going to do. And I basically finally started having success in my photo business after a couple years of struggling, being broke, trying to figure it all out. And I basically got really frustrated that why didn't they teach me anything in school that was going to be helpful? I went to art school. I knew I was going to be a photographer. No one freaking told me anything.
Right.
And even all of my parents are business owners and entrepreneurs, but it's a very different thing to be a business owner in, 2015 and 2012, whenever I started, than when they started. And so even though I felt like I had guidance, I didn't really have the tools that I needed, and I didn't have the community, and I certainly didn't have anyone talking to me about what the heck mindset was and what a freaking journey it is to own the business and have all your stuff come up and come with you as you're trying to make money, network, do sales, serve people. And so it really was it kind of happened the summer of 2015. I always just say I got hit over the head by the universe of you're supposed to go help other creatives now because you figured it out. And I really was I'll start a blog. I'm just going to write about, boundaries and how to price yourself.
Amazing.
And so I thought I was going to start a blog, and I started a second business. And the really big thing for me in my photo business was when I figured out how to make my rent from a 2-hour shoot.
Wow.
So
good for you.
Yeah. And the thing is, right, it was really just me being bold enough to be what do I need? What do I want? How much can I, physically work?
Yeah.
And what is that, price tag? And it really was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
And so I knew all of the things that I had struggled with along the way. And then I really was passionate about helping people figure out how to price yourself and the mindset that goes around it. So
Yeah.
this is like the longest answer of all time, but
No, I love it. Keep going.
I was really fiercely passionate about helping other talented creative people do what they actually want to do, were taught to do in school, like actually use their skills and gifts and be able to make a living from it and not have it be such a mystery or, play into that stereotype.
Or like feel bad. Like I can't tell you. So I do a little bit of business coaching. I tend to take on like one person at a time. But I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs I talk to and how many I work with who like feel really bad about pricing appropriately.
Yeah.
Like they're just like, oh, I could never charge industry standard. And it's like, are you in the industry? Yeah. Yes, you can. Like,
yeah.
What do you mean? Why do you like, and I think, and you must run into this all the time with artists, like the starving artist trope, right? You're not a real artist if you're not suffering for your art. And it's like, you can make really good money and do what you love and get paid well and be good at it. And like, you can be a real artist and not starve.
And be a good person. I think that's what so many people get tripped up is this idea that if I want more money, I'm going to be greedy. If I have money, I'm going to be an asshole. Sorry, I don't know.
Unpack all the money shit. Especially women are taught like, oh, I love this. I love this. Yes, keep talking.
So yeah, I got into it and I didn't set out to be a coach. That was like not my game plan at all. I wanted to put events on and do panel talks with artists and go into schools. And so my plan was not to be a coach, but that's how it ended up working out for various reasons. And
sometimes the universe has a different idea.
Yeah.
It was like, oh no, bitch, I'm going to put you in the right spot.
Yeah. And honestly, coaching is like it feels like the most natural thing that I've done that I could do. Like it's what I've kind of always been doing.
Yeah.
And even when I was working with my photo clients, I was like, where are you getting your business cards? Like, where are you marketing? Where are you networking? Yeah. Like I wanted to talk about the business stuff.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, everything over the last couple of years, it's really been amazing how everything has kind of come together where like, when I was little, when I was younger, I wanted to be a dancer when I got older. And now I incorporate like some movement into my work.
Amazing.
And, like my spiritual practice really grew over the last 6-7 years. And so like I do a lot of meditation with my clients. I do intuitive energy work with them. I read the Akashic records. Like I get to bring everything to my clients now.
Yeah.
And, the thing that is kind of like my whole philosophy now is around the original definition of the word wealth. So the original definition was the condition of well-being.
I love that. And
so when I share that with people, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to be like a greedy egomaniac if I'm building my wealth. Actually, I'm creating well-being for myself, financially, physically, professionally, personally, right? Like in all of the areas. And so for me, I find that really helps shift people's perspectives on just how they're building their businesses and how they're taking care of their human selves along the way.
And I have found that like money is an amplifier. So money and power are amplifiers. Like who you are gets amplified because money is power. Like, so who you are, if you are kind, if you're giving, if you care about other people, like that just gets amplified. You can give more, you can help more, you can support more. Like for me, like with therapy, I charge a certain rate that also allows me to build in a sliding scale. So like if clients can't afford my self-pay rate, I just see them at what they can't afford. I can only do that because everyone else and insurance pays me a certain amount. Like, and I'm always upping what insurance pays me. I'm like, I'm gonna bleed those motherfuckers dry. Like, give me money insurance. But it, like, you can have wealth, you can make money and be ethical, but so many people are taught and get the messaging, again, especially women, that you can't. It's not okay to ask for more. It's not okay to take up space. It's not okay to demand what you're worth.
Yeah.
But
And
it should be.
yeah. And I mean, like, I personally think, we're all priceless. So it's really hard to say, like, here's what
Yeah.
I'm worth, or here's what my, art is worth. Like,
Yeah.
pricing to me is very subjective. And so I always encourage people, like, it has to be realistic for you. It doesn't have to be quote unquote reasonable for other people.
Yeah.
But you're right. When you have the information of, like, here's what I need so that I have a profit, and so that I can take people at different levels, or
Yeah.
I can give scholarships, or I can donate a certain amount. Like,
Yep.
there is so much power in understanding, like, your own numbers, and then being able to apply your values to
Right.
your work and to your wealth.
Right. And there's nothing wrong. Like, I run into a lot of entrepreneurs who are like, well, like I feel, especially women, because we're nice, right? Which, like, the big heart, not the problem.
Yeah.
Not the problem. Getting around the money shit that we have is the problem.
Yeah.
And a lot of entrepreneurs who say, like, well, but what if people can't afford it? Like, what if people can't afford my services? And it's like, well, you can create different packages. Like, not everybody can afford to work with me, but I literally have a free podcast. Okay.
Yeah. And it's such a funny thing. Like, I was talking to a client the other day, and she was like, I really want to be affordable. And I was like, okay, that's completely fine. Except, like, number one, what does that even mean? That's different for everyone.
Affordable for who?
Yeah. But also, not everyone who needs your work is broke.
100%.
And so many people really have that mindset of, like, oh, I'm going to be, forcing them to pay something. I'm going to be taking something away for them. Or, like,
I don't have to work with you.
Everyone who needs support is broke. And it's like, that's not accurate at all.
Right.
And just because people also make a good amount of money doesn't mean that they don't need therapy, healing, art, like coaching, like all of the things. So yeah, that's the fun thing about money mindset and, exploring all this stuff, is there's so many different fun ways that it can really come in and fuck you up.
Yeah. And people, like, and I love this work for entrepreneurs, especially because, like, I think entrepreneurship is one of the, listen, you want to do some personal development.
Ooh.
You want to meet every single fear you've ever had, but never voiced.
Yeah.
Start a business.
Exactly.
Start a business. All of, you said it earlier, all of your shit comes to the surface. Your fears around being seen, people judging you, your shit with money, relationships, loss, scarcity, like
all of the things.
It is the biggest vehicle for personal development. So it's like, and I find that so many people struggle to say, like, for me, something that, like, I have struggled with and that I see other people struggle with is, like, it really doesn't have to be hard. Like, it doesn't have to be hard. And adopting that belief and saying, like, oh, I can actually work less and make substantially more money. And then the guilt that comes with that, where you're like, these people work, like, there's so many other people who work literally 1,000 times harder than I do.
Yeah.
And they're struggling. And it's like, we can take that guilt and we can carry it and we can say, like, well, I'm a bad person for doing this. Or we can turn around and say, okay, well, clearly I know something they don't, and I'm just going to release that knowledge. Like, which then comes back to where are your values? Like, it's okay to not struggle because you have knowledge or you have a certain amount of privilege that, like, being able to share that knowledge is its own privilege. And then you're like, you denying your gifts and struggling where you don't have the capacity to do that. This one a lot of different ways, but here we are. Like, you struggling where you don't have the capacity to share what you know doesn't help anyone. It literally does everybody a disservice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the, like, I don't know, big questions of the universe that I don't have the answer to, is kind of like, why are certain people, seem to be kind of like destined to struggle and to not make money, and
I don't
other
know.
people can make, millions and billions. And I don't have the answer for, I mean, there's lots of layers to why
Yeah.
that is. But I think one thing that I have really learned is that you having less than never
Mm,
helps anyone else. And whether that's less
right.
money than you want and need, whether it's less support than you want and need, whether it's less
Right.
love, whether it's less self-love, whether,
Yeah.
whatever, whether it's less safety and comfort,
Yeah.
like, you having less of anything doesn't help anyone else have more.
Right. Right. Yeah, 100%. And I think like I think it's a fine line between like, I want to help everyone and I'm a martyr. Like, you can't martyr your way into helping people. Okay.
Yeah.
Mother Teresa still had a giant support system. Like,
Yeah.
she had money.
Yeah.
Okay. The
Yeah.
girl had money.
Yeah. It's true. And, it really is like such a cool thing. I think, um, what I found was that, like, people would always show up asking me for help with money, but really
Mhm.
what we're doing is working on them as a human. And
Yeah.
so I kind of say, like, money is a portal to the self. Um,
Yeah. Oh, I
so,
love that.
yeah, like, show up, we're going to work on your money stuff, but really it's about you.
Yeah.
And, um, yeah, you get into, like, family patterns,
Mhm.
cultural patterns,
Yep.
past life stuff we get into. Like, there's
Love
so
it.
many, different influences that have made us who we, are in this moment.
Yeah.
And being able to unravel those and unpack those and talk about those, um, it, like, I'm sure kind of same thing with therapy. It's like
Mhm.
just talking things out
Yeah.
is like the biggest game changer in the world for most
Yeah.
people, to just have that safe space to
Yep.
explore themselves. And, like,
Yeah.
that is actually what changes things. Their relationship with themselves is what
Yep.
changes their relationship with money, more than them, you know, like, just, I don't
More
know,
than a strategy.
more than like a
Yeah.
financial strategy. Yeah.
Right. Because you can have like, I will die on the hill that like the statistic that 90% of businesses fail in 3 years is not because they can't do the to-do list.
Yeah.
I will die on the hill that they fail because they can't get past their mindset. Like,
Yeah.
it's because the first 3 years I mean, talk about trial by fire while you're drinking from a fire hose. It's like you're on fire and you're drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
So if you can't get past your mindset, then it doesn't matter what strategies you have. Like,
Yeah.
if you can't come to terms with the fact that like you have a business and that business needs to make money and that is okay, then you're going to sabotage yourself at every cost. Because if you believe that rich people are horrible, that people who make money are horrible, that all business owners who run a profitable business are greedy assholes,
Yeah.
and you don't want to be a greedy asshole, you're going to make damn sure that your business fails.
Yeah, for sure.
And
For
people
sure.
don't even realize, because they're not, to what you were saying earlier, like they don't recognize that belief pattern. They don't understand the beliefs that are driving their behaviors, because they don't know how to say, where is this coming from? Why am I doing this?
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it really is answering those simple questions, which have complex answers, with someone, right?
Right.
Like, because you
Yeah.
can sit there and try and do it on your own. But
Mhm.
that's why, like, I'm such a big fan of coaching, because um, it's having that other person who's willing to ask one more time, but why?
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, I love the why. Like, please, my clients always tell me I sound like a toddler because I'm like, but why? But why? And people are like, damn it, Amanda. And I'm like, no, I need to know.
Yes, that is literally what I tell people. It's like, go into toddler mode, ask yourself why, until you really get to the root.
Right. Sorry,
Yeah.
I was plugging in my computer. And something that I find a lot is like people don't do self-reflection. Like, I can't tell you how many people I run into and I'm like, because I'm in this field, right? And this is something I experience with a lot of clients. They're like, oh, well, they don't realize when they're not doing their own self-assessment, how many other people are also not doing self-assessments. And it's like, oh, you really have no idea the motivations behind what you're doing. And then you can't make like you remove your ability to choose if you don't know why you're doing something. So then if we talk about that in a business sense, like people end up with a business that they didn't choose, that's not intentional, that they're a slave to. And then they're like, God, I hate running this business. And it's like, well, yeah, you didn't choose any of it. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't build it the way that you wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's like those outside influences, you know, consciously and subconsciously that are impacting you. And yeah, I'm really all for people making empowered choices. And I think that
Yes.
Unfortunately, so often people seek out, you know, a coach or support, and they're like, just tell me what to do, right? And there's lots of people that are like, you just do it this way, and that's the only way you can do it. And then, yeah, people either get stuck because they're like, this isn't working for me, and I don't know why, or they end up running their business in a way that really doesn't feel good to them. And then we have to, you know, like break it all down, restructure everything, you know, break the box, like, and start over. But yeah, it's knowing yourself, I think, is like the best thing that you can do if you're a business owner.
Right. Because otherwise, how do you know what's working, what's not? And I think it's easy when you're afraid of money to chase money. But if you think about like the energy of chasing something, it also implies that you're never going to have it, versus like being very rooted in who you are and being very authentic to what works for you, you actually attract. So it sounds like something that you take people through is like knowing yourself so that money turns around and comes to you. And that's something that I see a lot is like when you're in alignment, everything is easier because you're not blocking your own blessings. You're not blocking your own success by being out of energetic alignment, because you're just doing the right things for you, which means your success is always coming. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. And that is a like personal process, right? And, you know, I always like to say like your wealth is going to look just like you. Right. And so
explain. I love that.
Just in terms of like doing things your way and also not trying to recreate like someone else's business or someone else's brand, or, you know, feel like, oh, I have to do it, you know, someone else's way, or that, you know, my goals aren't enough, or just really being very clear and confident again in like your values, your goals, your ideal lifestyle, like how you want to work, you know, like what you're really after with everything. And then not being ashamed of what you have chosen and what you want for yourself.
Yes.
That's such a big piece of it for my clients, that when I take them through really like, what do you want? Like, what are your desires, and where have you made yourself wrong for wanting those? Because that's going to give you your blueprint for exactly what's not working, and how to move forward with more ease is allowing yourself to have what you want, go after what you want, and do it in the way that really makes sense for you.
Yeah. Do you, I just love everything you just said so much. I love everything that you just said. I want everyone to play it back.
Okay.
Do you know Ramit Sethi?
No.
He's in the personal finance space. He is, in my opinion, one of the best, most empowering financial educators out there. He talks a lot about a concept called a rich life. And you know, he's very empowering with money. He's extremely education based. He's like, understand how money works so that you can live the life that you want, which is very similar to how you work, which love. And he talks a lot about how your rich life should confuse other people because it should be so personal.
Yeah.
It should be so personal. Like, it should fit you so well that other people are like, what? Why would you do that? And it's like, that's how you know you're on the right track, right? Like,
Yeah.
so like for my business, so I accidentally, well, it was kind of both. Like, I have a problem with authority that I don't respect. Like, I have a problem with authority that is authority because of a title, not because they earn it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I always knew I would work for myself because I'm like, yeah, fuck this. I was very lucky to have like really quality bosses when I was working for other companies, but I always knew like I was going to do it my way.
Yeah.
So like as a therapist, I do things quite differently. And you as a money coach do things quite differently, like incorporating their spirituality. So I work out of my farm. Like right now we have 8 turkeys that hang out with us during our sessions. Like we sit in lawn chairs in my field.
Wow.
Which is very, very different. Like most therapists are in an office. We are not. We sit under trees. Like it's lovely, but it works for me. Like, and it was so easy to build because every step of the way, I was like, what do I want? What do I want to do? Like, I literally work from home so I can hang out with my dog all day. And like, people love our dogs. They love our animals. So like when you keep that in the forefront, which sounds like where you go with people, what do you want? Let's build from there. You're going to automatically do the right thing for you.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, it's not always easy to do that, but it will make things easier.
100%. Like I tell a lot of people, like, if you do the hard things early, your life is easy. If you avoid doing the hard things, you make your life very hard.
Yeah.
Like, being in alignment takes a lot of courage. It's not always the easy choice. Not only because people don't get it, but because, you know, we react to when people don't get things when they're like, that's insane. And you're like, but is it? It feels good, but maybe I'm doing it wrong. And then we get into the second guessing and perhaps it's not, you know, normal in your industry or whatever. Like, yeah, it's not easy.
It's not easy. And most of the time it doesn't make sense on paper, right? But that's why I tell people, like, listening to your intuition is actually the most logical thing that you can do.
Can you repeat that, please?
Listening to your intuition is the most logical thing you can do.
Yes. 1000%.
Right? But we've been told that's illogical, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what are you basing that on? Why do you think you can go do this? And I will say, like, this whole business has made no freaking sense from the start because I listened to my intuition.
But it made perfect sense.
To me,
it was the right thing.
It was exactly the path that I needed to take because when I was starting out, like, I had this deep calling to start speaking to people, you know, start doing talks. It was like, well, I've never been a public speaker. I have no idea how to do that. I don't know how to put together a lecture. You know, I've been behind the camera. Like, I'm shy. I'm introverted. There's all these reasons that it made no freaking sense, but I really allowed myself to honor that calling and just give it a go. I didn't go and take public speaking classes. I didn't go and like learn all the things about, you know, giving talks. I was just
trial by fire.
Here's my idea. I'm going to pitch it and then I'm going to give it a go. And I started speaking and I was like, oh, I freaking crush at this. Like, why? I don't even know. Like, I had no idea that I could do that, but that was just where my intuition was leading me to go. And it was, to this day, like, getting speaking gigs has been the easiest part of this business. And, you know, like, it didn't make any sense. And when I, you know, decided that I was going to host retreats, like,
fun. I need to talk to you about those.
Yeah, it was like, it didn't really make any sense. Like, I hadn't done them before and didn't really have any background in it, but like, I'm freaking awesome at hosting retreats. And
hell yeah.
You know, there was obviously fear along the way and nerves along the way as I was doing all these things. But listening to my intuition really has been like the biggest guide in this business and has been probably the reason that, like, A, I've done so many things and B, I've kept going.
Right.
because it's not that everything was super, super successful, but it was like I kept listening to my intuition, and that
Mhm.
kept taking me, to this step, to this step, to this person, to the
Yep.
next thing, and just has been, carving out the path for me.
Yeah. And I find that it's never wrong. Like those things that are on your heart are there for a reason.
Yeah.
And I also find that like when people don't follow them, they get bigger and bigger consequences until they're forced to.
Yes. Until the universe comes up and smacks you and then keeps smacking you because you're not
Right.
yeah.
Right. Because they're like, hey, bitch,
Yeah.
you're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah. And really, like, so often I find it's like my clients know what they want to do. It's like they just need someone to be like, that's okay. You can go do that.
Oh,
And just
yeah.
with a little bit of permission, then they're like, oh, okay. And then they take off and fly because, you know, uh,
Yep.
it just, again, it's that like very customized blueprint that no one else is going to give you.
Right. Right.
And
I
it's
love
leading
that.
to,
And I love that you say that because I 100% believe that you're right. Like people always know what the next step is. We second guess. We talk ourselves out of it. We think we have to be quote unquote logical about it when it's like if you know the next step, that is the next step. You don't have to know 3 steps down. You just have to know the next step down.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that.
I had a, I had a client who I banned her from saying, I don't know.
I do that with all of my clients and I say, no, 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 we can't do that. Eventually they're like, oh, I can't say that. And I'm like, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, because there's something
You
there,
do
right?
know.
Whether it's just a feeling or an idea or, like an inkling, right? Like,
Yeah.
most of the time, unless, I'm asking you like a math question and you really don't know the answer, like
Right.
probably you have some idea of what you're called to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I always say, if they say, I don't know, I say, well, what's your best guess? And then they say the thing, and I'm like, okay, good. You're right. Excellent.
Yeah.
Like, wherever you're landing, you're correct.
Yeah.
And then I love that because I find that good coaches don't give people like a program, they teach them how to think. Like, that's the point.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of convolution in the coaching industry, I would say.
Yeah.
And I think it's really awesome that we can kind of have overlap between like teaching and coaching and consulting. And, there's a lot of things that can kind of come together. But I think the mistake that a lot of people make is thinking that because they're a coach, they have to be a teacher. And that if someone's showing up for coaching, that they're expecting just to be taught or just to be told what to do or just to be given, like, here's the formula and take off. And really for me at the core of coaching is like guiding people to their own answers.
Yeah.
And so I can, share my advice and my insights and, my knowledge like all day long with them. And I absolutely do. But I don't want anyone to do business the way I do business. I want them to do business the way they want to do business,
Right.
And I want them to be the human that they want to be, not to try and be me,
Right.
And so it is all about asking the right questions and creating space for people to find their own answers. And also, again, that self permission too, right?
Yes.
Here's what I know is for me. Okay, what's keeping me from allowing myself to, move forward with that. And, I just love that process of people being able to really speak their desires and then figure out the best way to take action on them.
Yeah. And unapologetically too, like I cannot tell you how many people. I have a client right now who, not a business client, a therapy client, who they don't know, and I run into a lot of therapy clients who have this issue, like they don't know how to dream. They really don't know. And I never thought that was a process that I would have to teach, but I had to learn how to systemize it because I have so many people who literally don't even know where to start because they don't know anyone who lives their dream. They don't know anyone who thinks they can, have power over their circumstances, like they don't have anyone in their life who they've ever seen say, I want this thing and I'm going to go get it. And they just like settle and settle and settle and like build themselves a prison. And I watch business owners do that, and it makes me so sad. And I watch primarily more women do it than men,
Mm.
where they can't even speak a desire because they block themselves automatically. As soon as they think it, they say, oh, but I could never have that.
Yeah.
Oh, but I can never do that. And it's like, but if that's on your heart, then it's doable. And there's somebody who's already done it, which proves that it's doable.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like, I mean, you tell me, but I feel like that stems so much from how people are raised and what their
Oh
parents
my God, yeah.
encourage them to go after. And like,
Oh, yeah.
I was really blessed in that my parents are both like artists and business owners and musicians, and I've had like multiple careers, and their encouragement to go after photography and go to art school and just
Yeah.
go after what's going to make me happy. I think that was like the best gift that they gave me, because I really felt confident in like I'm allowed to go pursue what makes me happy, what I'm passionate about. And like I didn't think there was any kind of limits on that. And I think that's
what a gift.
Yeah, like that's so many people did not receive that growing up. And so that is kind of something that like can be learned, but also like has to be learned, right? If you're going to be
If your goal is to grow, it has to be learned. And it like, it takes an intersection of like, you can only grow when you're safe. So like if you grew up in like a home where you were unsafe, if you grew up in poverty, like obviously your first priority is safety. So then you're not like, oh, I'm going to build, this thing. Like, yeah, people do it, but that's much more rare than it is common.
Yeah.
But it takes a certain amount of like safety, which again, like a really good coach does, is they hold that safe space for you so that you can step out into dreaming, so that someone looks at you and says, well, why can't you have those things, when you're talking yourself out of it? And then they're like, oh, well, there's really no reason that I can't. Or one answer I get a lot is like, well, I don't know how. And it's like, okay, well, find someone who's smarter than you and pay them. Like, find someone who's done it.
Yeah.
And go be in their circle. But a lot of this process too is like getting around people, or even just like exchanging energy. Thank God for the internet, things like Instagram and Facebook. Like you can exchange energy with people who have done what you want to do, and they're so accessible now.
Yeah.
So that way, if you have no one in like your personal circle, well, now you can, literally follow people and say like, okay, well, like they came from a similar background to me, or they built this thing that I really think that I could build, but I don't know how. Yeah. And it's like, everything is also learnable.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think that really is such a key too for, growth, is who you're surrounding yourself with, right? And being in the right communities, and being able, like, that's definitely been such a huge part of my own journey, is being in communities and being part of groups and masterminds and stuff with people who have a different perspective than me, and are further along than me, and have made more money, or have whatever it is. Like, really having your community it's just freaking huge. And there's so many options out there for like where to find community these days. And so I love that. I love that there's just so many different spaces, and that there's specific spaces that are like specific to women, or like Black women in business, or Indigenous business owners. Like, I love that there's really those niche groups too, because that's one thing for me too, that like I've had to work on through this coaching journey, is like, I'm really dedicated to working with a diverse set of clientele who don't, look like me, sound like me, come from the same background. But I'm also not the right coach for everyone. And I think it's really like a beautiful thing when someone can be like, I want to go work with a coach who's,
Who
biracial.
understands my lived experience.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like you can really get niche with it these days and find exactly
Yeah.
those examples of people who are like you, who
Yep.
have done it and who can help guide you. And
Yeah.
yeah, thank goodness for the internet so we can find those people.
Yo, for real. Because I think when people start leaning into like, not that they even have to believe it's possible, but just the possibility of it being possible is enough to crack open that door. And it's like when that door cracks open and a little bit of light gets in, you're like, what if I could do it? Not like I can do it. Not everybody starts there, and a lot of people don't. But just saying like, okay, well, what if I could? That is an empowering question, because the next question is, how can I?
Yeah,
Instead of saying I could never do that.
right.
Well, why not? And that's something I ask people all the time. I say, why not? And they say, oh, it's for XYZ. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you made that up.
Yeah,
You
and
just made it up and decided it wasn't true.
right, and like allowing yourself to start at step one. Like so often I find
Yes.
people get messed up with that too, where they're like, but I have to like do 7, 8, 9, and 10. And like, okay, but you also have to do like step one.
Right.
And that's okay. Like you can be at the beginning, you can be, a starter. Like that's completely fine. And like let's not like get too ahead of ourselves before we've even, taken step one.
Right. Well, too, when you try and step into a space that you're not ready for, like sometimes it's too much and your nervous system is like, ah.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, maybe we need to scale back, and that's okay. Like slow growth is better than no growth. Like you can walk, you're still going to get where you're going. It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
don't really subscribe to like the definitely not into the hustle culture, and also not into just like this overnight success that I think a lot of people think is how things work, because that's what's portrayed on the internet a lot of the time.
Yeah. I love there's a quote by Steve Martin, I think. If I'm misquoting it, forgive me, Steve Martin. That says it took 10 years to become an overnight success.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, that is so true. And like, yeah, and not hustling just for hustle's sake, right? Like obviously it is a lot more work in the beginning because you're building from zero.
Yeah.
But if you're building it intentionally, if you're getting the right support, then ideally it becomes easier over time. And then you get into the space where you're like, oh, okay, like this wasn't that bad. But a lot of people, if they're not doing it intentionally and they end up out of alignment, then they end up working 3 times as hard. And that sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. Like, I don't want to work harder than I have to.
No, I mean, a lot of times I feel like business isn't hard, but life is hard, and humans are complicated and business is simple, but we're humans running businesses, so like it ends up being kind of like
we're complicated little gremlins.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's one of those things, is like allowing yourself to find the ease. It doesn't always mean it's going to be easy, but allowing yourself to find the ease through all the different, stages and pieces of business, because it's really like, it's an ongoing journey. You know what I mean? Like you don't get to one point and then like you're set for life. Like,
right.
As soon as you hit the goal, you're like, oh my God, here's a new thing that I'm going to go do. That I'm going to go
new
learn.
level, new devil.
Yeah. Like it's an evolution. So I think just being able to like, surrender to that a little bit and find the ease, even when you are going through hard times,
I find too that your intuition always knows where that is. Like I think of the intuition as like water. Like water doesn't complain when it hits a rock. It just finds the path of least resistance and takes that, and it's always the right path. Not that that's always taking the easy way out, but it's to get where you want to go, the least resistant path. Like water doesn't complain, a river doesn't complain, it just flows down a mountain. Like,
yeah, I love that.
And your intuition is the same way. Your intuition automatically knows where the path of least resistance is, because we are also wired to do the least amount of work. Like our bodies are wired to spend as little energy as possible. So it's going to already know where the least energy intensive spot is. And then it's like, okay, cool. Like I'll just do what my inner wisdom already knows to do. And once you get in that cycle, like the ease comes because you're not fighting your body or your own inner wisdom either, which is so nice.
Yeah, I love that metaphor. And it brings up something for me, which is like, there's times when your intuition's going to be like, sit back, chill, like take it easy. And there's times when it's also going to be like, it's go time, like get your butt up and like, now it's time to go, and like leaning into the momentum. And, there are like, you do have to navigate what are those moments, and being able to say like, okay, yeah, I was kind of sitting and chilling and, just like flowing for a while. And now like, I do actually want to put in some more energy, some more effort, do something new. And, it's like, that's an interesting part of growing the business too, is just being okay with like, sometimes I'm just going to kind of be, chilling, cruising along. And then there's sometimes where it's going to be like time to put in the work and build. And you have to know how to be okay in both of those moments, and what you need in both of those kinds of experiences, in terms of like your support, your time management, like, just all of the things. But I love that metaphor of like intuition as well.
Because it always knows. And it's hard. It was definitely very hard for me to come out of like the hustle phase, because like building a bit, like you do have to hustle in the beginning. Okay. Like you have to, but you don't always want to stay there. We're not machines. Like we need rest periods too. So going from like building to sustaining, I was like, oh, this is weird. Yeah, this is weird. It took an adjustment for sure. You're just so good. I love this. Okay. So how do people find you? If they're like, Sonya, yes, please. I want you to speak wisdom into me. I want you to Salt Bay me with these like little sprinkles of nuggies and knowledge. Like, how do they find you?
Yes, come in. I will salt everyone. So I'm under Real World Creatives everywhere. That's my website, my Instagram, Facebook page. I mostly hang out on Instagram. That's kind of my favorite place to hang out and connect with people. But yeah, you can definitely find me through my website, which also has my podcast. So my podcast is called Wealthy in Pajamas.
Oh my God.
And you can find that on Spotify and probably some other places. But
that's so clever.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, talk about like doing wealth and life your way. That's like quirky and weird. It's like everyone else is like, I'm going to put on, like the red bottom heels and do like photo shoots in Paris.
Right.
I'm going to get into my pajamas.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I tell everyone, like, if I don't have clients, I'm not wearing pants. Like the guy I'm seeing is like, you don't wear pants at your house. I'm like, no, it's my house.
Yeah.
I would wear pants. I can't tell you how many times I've had to go run after animals. And I'm just like, sorry. Also, you're welcome, everyone that drives by.
I'm totally that like crazy lady who's in her yard, like in her robe,
I mean, like
walking my dog. Yeah. Whatever. Like
this is my version of a rich life.
Yeah, this is my land. I will be naked if I want
to. Wealthy in pajamas. That is hilarious. Okay, so Real World Creative. Do you only do one-on-one? Do you do like group programs? How do people work with you?
I do a little bit of everything. I do. Yeah, I love doing one-on-one. I also love doing groups. So I have a new group that's starting in September. That's small and intimate. And then I have one-to-one. I do single sessions as well. Sometimes that's what people need. We just really bang it out and like.
Yeah, they just need like a recalibrating.
Yeah. So yeah, I have everything from, 2-hour sessions to more intensive one-to-ones for 4 months or 6 months.
Nice.
And then, I do groups along the way. And yeah, I just love to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And it's your business. You're the HBIC. So you get to do what you want.
Yeah. And I love speaking in other people's groups and on podcasts. And
so fun.
Always happy to like, be a guest somewhere. I really love giving back in that way to other people's communities. So come on in.
Love it.
We'll find it.
Right. Come on in. Love it. I love that. Dude, thank you so much. Like this was so good.
Yeah, I so enjoyed it. You had really good questions. So
Thank you. It's almost like I interview people for a living.
it's like we've done it before or something.
Almost like I've done it. Oh, okay. You were such a doll. So real world creative. And if people only remember this next thing you're going to say, I know, what would it be?
Ooh, that's so much pressure.
Not sorry.
I know. I want to drop something really good, but I think really truly the best thing to walk away with is that your wealth will look just like you, and your well-being gets to be customized to exactly who you are and exactly what you want to feel and how you want to live and work. And your version of wealthy is just right.
Mic drop. Okay, yes. That was so good. Thank you so much for hanging out.
Thank you. This was so fun.
This was fun. Oh, we love. All right, fam. Go figure out what wealth looks like for you. We love that.